here's your host, John Chapman.
What is going on, faithful? Man, this is a great day because here, for the first time, we launch into training camp, we go through the testing, we get all those things, and we're finally starting to get some type of camp reports coming out of training camp. Now, the funny thing is, it's not the traditional way at all. Right? Usually we have our beat reporters that are out there crushing it, and we're getting in, fan clips and all that stuff. It doesn't exist. It's not happening at all. But what we are getting is way more access to players. The 49ers have been pretty relentless. Every day that they have camp, they're letting 2 or more guys be interviewed by the press virtually through Zoom and things of that nature. And it's actually been really, really telling. It's very different. But we're getting a sneak peek into what the players see from their peers. And there's a couple of guys that continue to, quote unquote, shine through this press conference stage, and you get to learn the personalities a little bit more. But they tell you who of their peers is doing really, really well in practice. And so what we're going to do today, we're going to spend a lot of time through the eyes of the players, break down what it is that they have. And we've got 4 players we get to listen to today that, I've cut up all the clips. They just finished the second round of interviews not too long ago, which is rough. I started back school as well, so classes are full of steam virtually, of course. But yeah, I'm doing classes as these press conferences are taking place, and so I have to mute my phone and put it in the other room, or I'm going to check it during class, which is awful. But as soon as class ends, I jump on here, I start breaking down film, and I'm just glad to be with you guys today. So we're going to hear from 4 separate players today: Eric Armstead, Mike McGlinchey, 2 of the biggest humans on the planet, and then we're going to hear from Kyle Juszczyk and Jimmy Ward. And we're going to allow them to kind of create a launch point as we show some of those clips. And if you missed the last episode, we did something very similar. So we got a lot of clips for you today. We're going to be jumping in and out of a lot of different topics. If you have questions and you're listening live, what is up, Countdown Crew? Cannot say thank you enough for all the people that are here. Please tag me wherever it is, whether that's through HotMic. If you haven't downloaded HotMic yet, what are you doing? Come on, get over there, download HotMic with promo code RushESF. It's completely free. That's probably one of the best ways. And then on YouTube, of course, that is always there as well. What is up, Countdown Crew? I love it. Love seeing the hashtag CC. Makes me proud. And so before we jump into the interviews, which we're going to spend a lot of time on, I got to be selfish here, man. I got to be selfish. We've been working. We've got a team of about 6 dudes, and they have been incredible. I just want to give shout out to them for helping with the Quest for 6. We've got our mini documentary. The very first episode is premiering this Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, right here on the YouTube channel. It's going to be on YouTube only. So if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, you need to do so. Just type in John Chapman in YouTube. It should pull up. Type in 49ers Rush. It'll pull up. Hit subscribe. We're going live with the mini doc at 6, and it's just chapter 1, so it's not an elongated episode. But what we're going to do afterwards is have a Q&A, kind of a mini pod, talking about what we covered in there, some of the interviews and some of the film and stuff that we go through. But also, we're going to be giving away a brand new Nick Bosa jersey. Going to ask a trivia question, so you got to be there with the live group. And going to be giving away a jersey for free, $100+. Why not? You know me, I always like to give away stuff. So that's going to happen Thursday night. And this is huge because we've been working months on this. And so I've got another trailer for you. If you go to my Twitter account at JL_Chapman, you'll see one of the trailers. But I love trailers. I love them. So here is number 2, inspired by one of the all-time greats, Bill Walsh himself. So here we go. Enjoy. Winners act like winners before they're winners. The culture precedes positive results. It doesn't get tacked on as an afterthought on your way to the victory stand. Champions behave like champions before they're champions. They have a winning standard of performance before they're winners. You know, it's interesting. whenever you look back and you try to figure out some people who have kind of like paved the way or inspired you in any way, shape, or form, whatever, it's really interesting the people that kind of stand out, and I don't want to get too much into this now, but I was born in 1982. So my fandom was not really, it didn't overlap with Bill Walsh near as much as the influence he has had on my life. But, once I got into coaching and evaluating talent and writing for the draft and covering the 49ers, I can't get enough Bill Walsh. I never have. And it's sad, but this has been since deleted from the internet somehow. I don't know how. But Bill Walsh started a scouting academy where he went through and detailed every single position, what he looks for in scouting for the draft process, what's important, what's not important. And I mean, it was just an encyclopedia of knowledge. Just hundreds of pages. It was beautiful. It was a work of art. And so I went through and, I created my own grading rubric as a teacher, right? Based off of everything that Bill Walsh talked about with all these positions. And so I've always kind of used that as my launching pad for draft and just really NFL talent, period. Well, it's gone now. It's gone. I don't know why, but whether the family had it taken down or just the license expired or whatever, it was one of those like horribly run websites. You could tell it was definitely like early ARPANET setup, but I can't say enough about Bill Walsh and just kind of what he's meant, not only to me, but just this franchise, the fan base, the faithful, everything, because he is kind of the godfather. One of the most legendary coaches, humans, to put their footprint on this sport and this community. So, I don't want to give away too much. We're not going to be talking a lot about Bill Walsh this Thursday, but we're going to spend a lot of time on him in the future. So if you haven't, please head over there, hit subscribe. Please join us. The amount of money and time that has been put in this is a little stupid, but that's okay. It's already worth it. If it just brings a couple people to the fandom and just brings the community together, and that's what we do this for. So now let's transition. Let's talk some current issues, and let's talk some current players, because training camp's going. COVID numbers are relatively down whenever you're just looking at football. Really less than 1% of all players on all rosters are currently under the COVID protection program, which is great. So if those numbers stay throughout the integrity of whatever this season is, we're going to finish the season. Now, the question becomes, well, once travel and games and all those things start coming into play, we could see it's gone bad. You've seen some of that with Major League Baseball, right? You talk about the Cardinals and the Marlins, for example, players that just didn't take it too seriously. And, Kyle Juszczyk and Mike McGlinchey even brought that up in press conferences the last 2 days, saying basically this. There are people that are spending time away from their families and aren't going to see their children be born, talking about Raheem Mostert. And, I didn't cut this clip, but Mike McGlinchey goes on to say, I'm a single guy. It's important for me to just stay home and stay focused because those guys have given up so much. It would be wrong of me to be selfish and to go do those things. And I think that's huge. A very mature program and a very mature attitude. Hopefully that permeates everybody. A couple bad apples can ruin everything. But Eric Armstead starts out. Okay, he was the first one up yesterday. And basically they asked him, very, very simple, that the plan is going to be the exact same usage and design for Eric Armstead for 2020. Base, he's going to be the outside kind of tough defensive end, run-stopping behemoth that he is. Nickel, pass rushing situations, slides inside. He hasn't been healthy very much, but he was healthy. But the idea is to stay there. But the question was then asked, what is something that can be improved for this defense, which was one of the best, if not the absolute best, in the 2019 season? And here's what he had to say.
Hey, Eric, it's Josh Dubow from AP. You guys obviously did a lot of real good things on defense last year. Are there areas as a unit where you guys are looking to get better this year?
Definitely get better. One thing, we talked about, we were tops in a lot of categories except run defense. We were middle of the pack, so definitely looking to get better in that aspect.
We talked about this just 2 days ago, and it's really, really interesting because whenever you look at the 49ers defense and the numbers, statistics that they were able to put up in 2019, the nearsighted part of it would say, gosh, defense is amazing. You've got all these huge guys like Buckner and Armstead, who's a run-stuffing defensive end. You've got these amazing linebacking core. Nobody's running on them. Well, you go back and you look at those Cardinals games, and you look at certain areas where they were very susceptible to almost 5 yards to carry, and it was right up the gut. It was right up the gut. Running in that opposite A-gap of DeForest Buckner, and I've talked about this. I love DeForest Buckner. I think he's a top 3 defensive tackle in the NFL, but he's a finesse guy, and he loves the swim move. He loves stunts, so the gap integrity gets lost sometimes. Now, usually he takes on double teams as well as anybody, but whenever you put somebody like a Sheldon Day beside him, and he guesses wrong or swims wrong or anything like that, those middle A-gaps would sometimes just part like the Red Sea, and you could see it on film when we were doing the breakdowns. It was just, it was so bad. And so you replace Buckner with a guy that weighs, 30-plus pounds more and is not finesse anything and is not agile or lateral movement anything. He doesn't know what a swim move is. You replace that with a healthy DJ Jones on the opposite side, and you already got to be really, really happy about what's going on. So that's one of those things that's kind of interesting that, I'm going to keep an eye on early on. You want to know where this defense can improve? I think 2 areas, okay? Number 1, better run defense up the middle. 2, more interceptions from the safety position. And we're going to hear from a safety later on at the end of this. So those are kind of the 2 areas that are huge. Missed tackles, I think you could throw that in there. But Fred Warner improved. Golly. Greenlaw improved huge. Quan Alexander still huge question mark in that area. He's always missed a lot of tackles, but that's okay. And they moved on to ask Eric Armstead about a college teammate. Dion Jordan was a senior when Eric Armstead came in and DeForest Buckner were there all at Oregon, and he talks a little bit about that here.
Again, I believe that you spent a year at Oregon with Dion Jordan. What are your recollections of him with the Ducks, and what are your thoughts on him joining the defensive line crew?
Man, it's great. Dion was a guy I looked up to and have for a long time, especially in college, being a freshman. He was a senior, big man on campus. And I always appreciated him for sticking up for me and not being one of those, seniors who talk down to freshmen and try to haze freshmen. So Dion was always my big homie, and I loved playing with him in college and being able to learn from him. And he played at a high level and, set a standard for us in college and something to achieve and dream of achieving one day, which was, playing well at Oregon and then, being a top draft pick. So he kind of paved the way for me and Defoe, and, we knew someone that did it at a high level. So it was amazing to, follow those next couple of years and, try to do the same thing he did.
And a couple things stood out to me there as you guys are watching with me. Imagine being a guy that tries to haze a 6'7", 300-pound behemoth of a man. I don't care if he's a freshman. The fact that there are people out there that are trying to haze somebody like DeForest Buckner or Eric Armstead is just crazy. And it just goes to show you, it doesn't even matter if you are going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL like Dion Jordan was. You treat people with respect. You fast forward 5 years, where are we at now? Dion Jordan's a backup role player, situational pass rusher at best, playing on a minimum salary. Eric Armstead just got $16 million a year. So things change. You treat people with respect. You do it correctly. Just because you're in a position of power, you don't take advantage of others or treat others as lesser than. I think that's huge. And so, I love the fact that Eric Armstead, instead of acting like he's so big, high, and mighty, even went back and reminisced a little bit. Yeah. When Dion Jordan was there, he treated us with respect. And I think that's awesome. I love that. Now, what does Dion Jordan provide for this defense? It's just depth. I think, again, snap counts are important. And obviously certain matchups are going to lend to a little bit more pass rush heavy mindset or game plan for this defense. But no way in hell should Dion Jordan get more than 5 or 10 snaps a game. Like, that's it. That's all that he does. Again, he's probably the 5th pass rusher off the bench. And so he's a guy that is just there for depth, just in case, guys, somebody goes down, he could step up, that's fine. But he's not a guy that you're trying to get snaps. He's a guy that you are trying to get in there on non-key plays, pass rushing only, to give your guys a breather. And so that's about it. So you take that for what you will, but I'm glad Dion Jordan's here. He wasn't the sign I'd make. I would have signed Demontre Moore. I actually would have preferred Ezekiel Ansah, but you've got to believe in the team and the front office, and they brought him in. And so he's with us. He's part of it, and so we're on his side now. Now the next player up, another giant, good old Mike McGlinchey, number 69 himself. Nice. And one of the questions that I thought was interesting, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, if you've ever watched any draft, press conference, whatever, versatility, it's the V-bomb. They throw that damn word around like crazy. If you did a shot every single time Kyle Lynch said versatility, you would be drunk by the second sentence. It's just, he loves it. And so they asked Mike about it, and here's what he had to say.
Versatility is going to be absolutely huge. It's going to make or break guys having jobs and make or break, situations to fill our roster, because we can get in any situation at any point this year that we're not just looking out for injury. We're looking out for something that we can't really defend ourselves from at times. And so to be able to have the ability to plug and play guys in different positions at different times is really going to allow us to keep moving as smoothly as operationally possible.
And man, this guy knows about versatility more than anybody, because if you go back to his rookie year, guess what? You were 2 or 3 games in, I think, and he had to be moved to right guard because of the injuries that took place. It might have been his first game. I could be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong there, wonderful countdown crew. But you move from when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch started. Offensive line is pivotal in this offensive scheme that they run, whether pass pro or run blocking, outside zone, whatever, doesn't matter. But what they have morphed it into, and he's going to talk a little bit more about this in a second. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but the idea is this. Everybody can play. Daniel Brunskill, I know I say it wrong. I'm from Texas. I don't speak English correctly. I apologize. Mispronouncing names is kind of my thing. But the idea is Daniel Brunskill, he can play all 5 spots. Compton can play 3 or 4 spots. Colton McKivitz can play all 5 spots. They don't want the game, the philosophy, the game plan to be corrupted by an injury, to be let down by 1 or 2 injuries. Screw that biz. We've got 12 offensive linemen that can play probably 10 separate lineups, and they're going to make sure they cover it no matter what. One man is not big enough to ruin what is happening, and there's 4 guys that can play center. Everybody can play guard. There's Justin School can play both tackles. There's all kinds of stuff out there, and I think that's huge. But as far as starting spots, the versatility is huge whenever the crap hits the fan and you got to kind of fill some holes and whatever else. But that right guard spot, me personally, and I think most of the faithful says Daniel Brunskill, he's going to be the starting right guard. Well, what is happening so far through training camp? Because, again, we don't get to see it. And McGlinchey lets us know exactly who's getting those right guard snaps.
Apologies for a two-parter, Mike, but who's been lining up next to you at right guard so far?
It's been a rotation between Dan Brunskill and Tom Compton.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question would be, there are a couple of newcomers on the line, and what are your early impressions of Tom Compton and also of the rookie Colton McKivitz?
Well, both are extremely great guys. Great to have in our room, and they were great additions to the culture that we have. In only getting to know them through Zoom in the spring, and now in the last 2 weeks or so. They're really a lot of fun to be around. And going back to that point, both very, very versatile football players. They've played a lot of football, Colton in college, Tom in the NFL, at a lot of different spots and a lot of different schemes. And Tom played for a long time in Kyle's system in Washington too. So it's 2 guys that are going to come in and compete really hard for us, give us a little bit added depth at not just the one position, but like Cam had said, a bunch of them. And going to allow us to do certain things with those guys there and push other guys forward, which is really cool. And obviously the other newcomer, if you can call him a newcomer, is Trent, and he's been an unbelievable guy to work with over the last 2 weeks or so. And even just in walkthrough, you still kind of get a little jaw drop by how smooth and how much of an athlete he truly is at his size. And it's going to be cool to pick his brain over the next couple weeks here, going through training camp once live bullets start flying and seeing him back in action.
First off, you've got to come back. Okay, Tom Compton, Daniel Brunskill are rotating at that right guard spot. Now, how do I say this? I want to be... Tom Compton is not a starting level player in the NFL. He's just not. He never has been. But what Mike said was important. Tom Compton played a lot of football with Kyle Shanahan in Washington. He knows the system. He's played the position. He knows the calls. And Kyle Shanahan, loyalty is his thing. And so I love that there's a little bit of a competition there. I think Daniel Brunskill, that dude's amazing. I really do think that he is amazing. I think that he could start anywhere. And I think that at some point, okay, here's my projection. And you can take this for whatever the hell you want to. Week 1 starter, Daniel Brunskill, right guard. But I think what they want to transition to eventually, if Richburg doesn't pan out, whatever, he's never been really healthy, you move Brunskill to center, which he's been taking snaps there, and Colton McKivitz once he gets to know the offense at right guard. If you're talking about the best 5 offensive linemen, I think that's your lineup. Now, where does Tom Compton fit into this? Because he's one of those jack-of-all-trades guys. He fits the prototypical right guard profile that Kyle Shanahan loves. He fits it to a T. But his ceiling and pass protection does not exist, okay? Now you look at somebody like Daniel Brunskill, who played freaking phenomenal at right guard or right tackle and left tackle, did a hell of a job last year in his first year out of the AAF. And so I think that this is a guy, if he can pass protect a tackle, he's going to be just fine at guard. So hopefully we'll see what happens, but you want Brunskill to overtake that, and I want Brunskill starting. I don't care if it's center or guard. I want that kid on the field. He is the epitome of toughness and versatility, and he just fits the system. He just fits it. So Colton McKivitz is obviously going to be taking over somewhere. He's a 5th round pick, but they were super high on him. But there's just so much depth. You talk about the new depth with all these people and all that stuff, and then Mike McGlinchey even did the same thing. And oh yeah, there is this one guy who on the left, Trent Williams, who is arguably going to be in contention for one of the better left tackles in the NFL. Now, can he regain where he was a few years ago? I think so. I think all of us think so. I think Kyle Shanahan thinks so. Past his physical, and you hear Mike McGlinchey, who's known as one of the most graceful and kind of, how do I say this, coordinated tackles out there. He's huge, he's lean. Very first year, you've got the clip where he's blocking 60 yards downfield. The dude's just a beast. Well, guess what? You put him next to Trent Williams, there's a big difference because Trent Williams does all of those same things. He's just much larger. You see his arms, Trent Williams, in the last press conference. They don't call him Silverback for any reason. They call him Silverback because he's just an absolute monster. That's just what he is. Now, another real short clip from Mike McGlinchey here, just talking about a issue that he had with his knee, which turned out not to be that big of an issue, but how it benefited him this year in the offseason.
Have an injury, surgery, or procedure that allowed you to be there in the offseason?
Yeah, so I had a PRP done on my knees, just like I do every offseason. So I was classified as a rehabbing player because of that procedure. I do it for maintenance purposes, and the first couple weeks and all that kind of stuff was what allowed me to be here and train with our staff.
So a PRP is a platelet-rich plasma injection in the knee. Very similar to what D Ford had last year, but it's not so. It's much more of a maintenance thing for him. But because he had this injection, he was allowed to come into and work with the training crew and all that stuff, even when everything was in lockdown. Because if you remember, the NFL said the only players that are allowed in early are the ones rehabbing, which allowed him to go in under that thing. So excited about that. A lot of players do this, especially the taller ones or people who've had had knee issues in the past. McGlinchey's never had knee issues. He's missed one game. He never missed a game in college, high school, or even Pee Wee football ever. He finally did miss a couple games last year, but he's never really had knee issues, and he's going to be just fine. So that's good news there. I really, really like that. Now, I do want to say before we jump to the Kyle Juszczyk press conference, one, I see a couple questions showing up on HotMic and on YouTube. We're going to get to those after we finish the press conferences, but also want to let you know the next Jimmy Garoppolo, which we've done like a 6-part series, good Lord, this offseason, will be dropping on Patreon tomorrow. It's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo versus the 3rd and long situation. If you haven't subscribed to Patreon, get over there. If you want to watch football, Niners football, get over there. So many hours of content and breakdown and all those things. So that's going to be dropping tomorrow. Just go to patreon.com, search 49ers Rush Podcast, subscribe to that Frank Gore tier. It's $8 a month, but trust me, you're going to get your money's worth. You're going to enjoy it. And if you don't like it, you can always just back out of it. No big deal. But that's there for you guys. So please, that's the best way to support the podcast. And really, the majority of funding that went to producing the documentary, The Quest for Six, it came from Patreon. I don't get that money. That money don't go to me. That money goes back to the podcast. And so the more subscribers we have there, obviously the podcast is always free, but the more subscribers we have there, the more we can do and kind of fund those things. That's what that's for. So let's move on now to the fullback himself, Kyle Juszczyk, Juice. And I love this question because with COVID, lack of minicamp, OTAs, no preseason games, what's the offense do? Where is the offense? And here's what he had to say.
Have you guys been able to just kind of pick up where you left off last year and even expanded the offense as we last saw it?
Yeah, definitely. When everybody's kind of checking in, everyone's hitting me up, hey, how's the first week of camp going? That's really been my response to everybody is we've just kind of picked up where we left off. It's nice to be in an offense that, this is our 4th year doing it. So we don't have to spend so much time on the day 1, day 2, that kind of stuff. Like we're kind of past that, and we're to a point that we can really just start building on everything that we've already done and get into some of the more advanced and minute details of things.
All right. The 49ers have such a huge advantage over the rest of the NFL. One, just by the depth of their roster, the talent, the lack of losing roster spots. They didn't lose coordinators. They're returning everybody. On top of that, they had an extra month of practice in that Super Bowl run. And so they're already more crisp. Now you could say, oh, well, their bodies are worn out and all those things. They still had several months off. And because of no OTAs, because of no mini camps, they had that time to rest as well. Everything looks, it could be wrong, but everything looks as if the advantage, which some teams are going to be way better farther ahead because of the COVID and the lack of all this stuff. New coaches are screwed this year. Betting wise and all that kind of stuff, which we're going to get into some of those once we get closer to kickoff, some betting specials with my bookie, things like that. But the idea is this: new coaches take the unders, returning veteran coaches and returning starters and coordinators take the over, because this year more than ever, it's so important. And again, look at the offense. Juszczyk said it. We kind of picked up where we left off because we don't have to start over. Really, the only new starter is a wide receiver, maybe Brandon Ayuk. I don't even think he's going to be a starter week 1. I don't think he will. I think that he'll have, some reps in there. But look at the offensive line. Trent Williams, guess what? Not new. He's played in Kyle Shanahan's scheme before. Tom Compton, not new. He's played in Kyle Shanahan's scheme before. Daniel Brunskill, not new. Now, he hasn't played right guard, but he started doing right guard snaps all through the postseason. So he's got that as well. McKivitz, okay, he's new. Nobody's expecting him to start. He's not even getting starting rep in the rotation. He's going to be a backup that's going to be eased in just in case somebody goes down. Ben Garland at center or Weston Richburg, not new. Wide receivers, there's nobody new. Jordan Reed, not new. He's not a starter, but still. Jerick McKinnon, been around the playbook for 2 years, not new. So the offense, they don't have to start over. And this is a big reason. Kyle Shanahan went back and he said several times, I truly believed, this is me speaking in Kyle Shanahan voice, I truly believe we had the best team in football. We had the best roster in football. So he returned that, and he gets to pick up right where they left off. All the coordinators are back, all of them. I'm excited, man. The more I think about this, and I think this is one of those unsung things, because other teams, they're starting at step 1, whereas we're already at step 15. And so the way that you move forward is going to be huge. It's good. And Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers usually start really, really fast. Usually, not always, but usually in games. And so I fully expect that. That week 1 Arizona matchup is going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. But you move on to weeks 2 and 3 versus the New York teams. Whew, man, those are going to be, it's going to get ugly. Now we got to move on to our every single time our Jet segment, because it seems to be a race on whichever offense or defensive player talks, and the question gets asked, and I love this question: who has stood out to you? Well, here we go. Jerick McKinnon time, baby. Let's hear it from Juice.
I think we all share the same sentiments as Trent. Like, Jet has looked phenomenal. You just would never guess going out there and watching the way he practices, how smooth he is, how he doesn't second guess himself, how quickly he answers questions in meetings, all that kind of stuff. You would never guess that this guy hasn't been on the field for 2 years. He just makes things look so natural, so smooth, that I think, there can only be positive things for him this year. I think he's going to have a really good year.
Man, Jerick McKinnon, imagine a world where Tevin Coleman is the 3rd running back in your rotation, because I think there's a strong possibility that's going to happen. Now, is everybody going to stay healthy? I don't know. This is the furthest Jerick McKinnon has made it in 3 years. Still 0 snaps, right? But you listen to what everybody keeps saying. Jimmy Garoppolo, Trent Williams. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And defensive guys are talking about it too. So what if the best fit for Kyle Shanahan's system, the number 1 fit is Jerick McKinnon. The perfect fit for the outside zone, well, that's Raheem Mostert. Tevin Coleman, kind of a jack of all trades, guys. Probably his best attribute is pass protection, to be honest with you, but he is a liability in the receiving game. So you have all these different fits. Jerick McKinnon and Raheem Mostert are the ideal fits in a Kyle Shanahan system. Raheem Mostert is the ideal runner. Jerick McKinnon is the ideal pass reception and pass protector. So really excited about that. I really want to see that. I really want to see it. Getting excited, guys. Now let's move to the defensive side with Mr. Glass himself, Jimmy Ward, who finally put up 2 straight years of just solid play. He did get injured again to start the season, but he turned that around and put together a hell of a performance throughout the long haul of the game, forcing the fumble in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes on that huge rushing play. He played a great Super Bowl. He played really, really well. You could talk about the 3rd and 15. It's a little more on Emmanuel Mosley, but whatever. The question was asked this because, we brought back all the coordinators, but probably the biggest change, personnel-wise or coaching-wise, was the DB coach. Joe Woods did a hell of a job. Well, he is now gone, and they brought in Tony Oden, and let's hear him talk about that.
Peterman from the Sacramento Bee. How would you explain, how would you explain Tony Oden's coaching style, and how would you compare and maybe contrast it to Joe Woods?
I don't really like to compare coaches. I feel like all the coaches bring something new to the table. I like him. He's more aggressive, but he's really fundamentally sound too. I like his energy so far. But as of right now, we're all still learning each other since there was no OTA. So we're trying to build chemistry. Right now.
Did you hear those few words that kind of stood out there? More aggressive. And Jimmy Ward's going to go on and hit on this just a little bit later on in the press conference. I don't have the clip. I didn't get the clip. But he goes on to say, you might see me blitzing a little bit more this year, which you got to like. Again, you look at the safety position, which is great. Jaquiski Tart, Jimmy Ward, they're great. They really are great. They don't give up a lot of big plays. Tart's a little bit more of a liability in the passing and running game, but they don't give up big plays. Okay, they're definitely safeties by definition. But if we can increase some of the explosives, you go back to, the Seattle defenses with Sherman and Thomas and Chancellor. One of the things that made them so unique was the explosive plays they created. Now, Richard Sherman's continued to do that just fine with all of his interceptions and tip passes and whatever else. He's done what he's continued to do. But we have missed a little bit of the safety playmaking ability. Instead of just a safety net back there, force a little bit more. And so I really hope that they experiment some with this. I don't think we need to do a lot of 5-man blitzes. Probably the person that was most successful in 5-man blitzes was our nickel corner, Kawan Williams. He was great, and Fred Warner obviously as well. But if you could incorporate some of that more with Jimmy Ward, I think that's huge because he's great at it. He is great in the box safety. And it continues to be hinted at that there might be some more 3 safety packages, kind of very similar to what we saw in the Super Bowl with Tarvarius Moore getting in there, getting a huge pass breakup, getting an interception in the Super Bowl. That's huge. He had more interceptions than Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt combined. And so, we need playmaking ability. Force the hand a little bit more. You have such a dominant defense. And I think you can do more of that now because your linebacking core is so strong. I mean, you look back at Fred Warner before 2019, the only question mark was his coverage ability was a liability. Well, what does he do in 2019? He turns into one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL. Dre Greenlaw, a rookie. Yeah, we knew Quan could cover, but then Dre Greenlaw comes in and holy freaking cow, intercepting Russell Wilson in overtime and just excelling. So because you have, back to the V-bomb, versatility, even on the defensive side, it allows you to be more creative. And so I think we're going to see a lot more dynamic, perhaps is the right word, a little bit more, less vanilla with this new coach, which I like. I really, really do like it. Now, this terrible question was asked, and I hated it, and I cringed, and I think you will too. How to get over a Super Bowl loss. I hate that. Ugh, pisses me off. But I want to play this clip, not because of the question, which I hated. Amazing reporter asked the question. But the way he responded. Man, the coach tendencies and all the stuff in me, the hair on the back of my neck just stood up. I love Jimmy Ward's response to this.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Jennifer. You talked about getting over the Super Bowl, and I think it's something obviously that a lot of guys have to do. But what is the mood on the field? What are people doing to get over it? And is everybody getting over it?
Working. I hear a lot of people, right now, my teammates, they say, they want to get back to that, spot and win it. That's what everybody in the NFL, every team wants to do, get to the Super Bowl and win it. But my approach is more just to take one day at a time, one game at a time. I've been in that position, so I see what it takes. But, I can't look past this first game. I can't look past tomorrow practice. I just got to do everything the right way and just try to keep the same routine, what kind of helped me be successful in this previous season. And hopefully I can put it all together this season.
That freaking fires me up, man. You just go to work. You don't look ahead. And everybody wants to do the big picture, and a lot of that's people like me. Man, if the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl this year, I don't think it's a lost season, but that sure as hell should be the goal. And how do you get to that goal? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so I love what he said where he's like, you don't look past the first game, and you don't look past practice tomorrow. Practice tomorrow, you got to win. And you just go to work. And that's what it's about. It's not feeling sorry for yourself and all those whatever. And the people that talk about, Super Bowl hangover, whatever, look at the Patriots. Lose the Super Bowl one year, you win it the next year. It can be done. It's happened. So you just go back and you just keep plugging away. Now, again, back to my favorite types of questions for players. Who stood out? And I love this answer right here from Jimmy Ward.
Hey, Jimmy, Kyle Posey, Niners Nation. Just kind of piggybacking off that. Who has stood out in the first couple weeks of practice here, and who on defense do you think needs to take a step forward for you guys to remain at the top?
Really, I can't really single-handedly say anyone right now. But I feel like whoever's in, they're going to play up to par. It's just because you only have to do your job. We really have the same defense that's coming back. Mine is Buck. And we got DJ, and DJ was doing a phenomenal job before he ended up going down with his injury last year, and he didn't lose a step. Trust me, he's flying off the ball. And we filled in some more pieces, and we kind of got the whole routine down last year, and it's just all the younger guys, they're just following suit. So that's what it's all about. Set the example, and other guys will follow.
And that's the last clip we have today, and it kind of goes full circle. You go back to one of the first clips we played with Eric Armstead. What did he say? Oh, we could improve against the run. We were middle of the pack. Well, guess what? One of the key players, if not the key player, outside of Javon Kinlaw, it's DJ. And, he got injured. He was finally hit that kind of, just great performance, was in that elite tier almost, and then he gets injured. But he's back, and he's looking good. And you hear it from Jimmy Ward. And, he even said, oh, I don't like to do that, but DJ. And so I think it just carries so much more weight, because you've got somebody that's tried to be honest and not, give the textbook, oh, everybody's doing their job, whatever. But he just couldn't stop it. DJ Jones. So you got to love all those things that are coming out. So much positivity, which you're not going to get negative answers from players. But again, during this time period, learn from the Washington football team. Any major news right now is bad news. You don't want that. So the longer you can go with these wonderful interviews and, no injuries and things along those nature, you knock on wood here, the better. Now, before we jump out of here, I want to give time just for some questions on HotMic and on YouTube. Real quick from Marco on HotMic. John, what did you think about the video of Debo rehabbing? Yeah, if you haven't seen the video, 7 weeks since he has had his surgery for the Jones fracture in his foot, he is just doing some very light jogging and planting on his outside feet. And it looked good. It definitely nowhere close to being ready to go. But again, I'm telling you right now, and I'm sticking to my time frame, I don't think Debo plays the first 3 weeks. Why rush it? You don't have Arizona is a quality opponent, but the Giants and the Jets, not so much. Don't allow him to travel and all that stuff. Get him back. Get him ready. There's a lot of depth currently at the wide receiver position. Because currently, Trent Taylor's good. Jalen Hurd's good. Kendrick Bourne's good. Brandon Ayuk's good. Juwan Jennings is good. Everybody else seems, Dante Pettis is good. They all seem healthy. Why rush them back? I don't think it's worth it, because can you do a Super Bowl run without Debo? That gets rough. It starts to get harder whenever you talk about that. So wait, don't rush it. Let's get it back. And so I think that, how do I say this? Debo's key. Okay, he's a pivotal, that's not a word, pivotal piece to this offense. You got to have him. So just wait. Don't rush it at all. From Niner Drag, with both safeties having at least 5 years in the league, neither has had at least 2 interceptions in the season. Why do you say the Niners should have more interceptions? So I like that. I just believe in turnovers, and a lot of that was just my coaching philosophy. I want to attack. And if you look back at the 49ers defense in 2018 to the 49ers defense in 2019, the big difference was, and you can put this, chicken before the egg, pass rush and interceptions. 2018, the 49ers broke the record for fewest interceptions ever since the merger. 2019, big time different story. And so I think that could increase, especially with this pass rush. You are going to find some new things with this safety, because I think that they're so close. And again, this goes back to coaching philosophies with Joe Woods versus Odin coming over from Miami. Woods was keep everything back, no big plays. And I think that overall philosophy will stay the same, but much more aggressive from the safety position, which I think could cause some issues. From Oz 49ers, is DJ going to start? If he's healthy, he's out there on base sets. I think that what you would like to do ideally is rotate him out in nickel sets. But if DJ Jones is not a hindrance or a liability in the pass rush, but you don't want your big nose tackles usually getting all that playing time. You don't want them playing 3 downs. They just don't hold up. They don't last. So hopefully he starts in base sets, and then you rotate him out, shift, Eric Armstead into that spot and bring in D Ford on the outside. That's ideal, but you can't do that every single series. It's just too many snaps for the starters, so you're going to rotate. I think ideally what the 49ers want, DJ Jones and Julian Taylor starting at that nose spot. I think those are the two rotation guys that they want there, so we'll just have to see what happens. Let's move over to YouTube now and get to some questions before we get out of here. David, he asked this. A lot of talk about players with Jet. Do you believe he'll be impactful this season? Yeah, we kind of talked about that, David. You got to believe him. You got to take them at their word. There's no reason for defensive players to bring up Jerick McKinnon and how great he is. There's no reason for offensive linemen to bring up Jerick McKinnon and how great he is. There's no reason. You have to take them at their word. So it's cautiously optimistic. You don't want to rush it too much, especially back-to-back season injuries. But the dude looks the part, and so pretty excited about this. From AJ, what do you think happens if a major coach tests positive for COVID? Heaven forbid. Yeah, I'm with you there. It's going to happen. There's no doubt. I mean, Sean Payton's already had it. One of the other coaches has had it as well. I don't remember which one, but I think 2 coaches have already had it. It's going to happen. And so here's what you got to do. You can't be around anybody. So let's say Kyle Shanahan gets it, okay? Well, one, Kyle Shanahan's not going to be there on game day. Now, the good thing is his playbook and all those things, and, this, I heard this happened, and this just goes to the most Raider John Gruden thing in the world. And so here's what happens. The players go to report for their Zoom session, their very first team meeting Zoom session, or one of their first ones. And sure enough, John Gruden's not there. And they come out, I think it was the defensive coordinator, I don't remember exactly who it was, says, well, hate to tell you guys, this is how they started the team meeting. John Gruden's in the hospital. He tested positive for COVID. And everybody's like, oh. And then like a few minutes later, Gruden pops in and goes, gotcha. I just wanted you guys to know what it was going to be like. That's the wrong way to handle it, right? That's not, that's a bad organization. That's just, I don't know. I don't know what they were trying to gain in that. But you have to practice. Just like teams practice, okay, what happens if our long snapper comes down? Let's rotate in the next guy. There is no doubt in my mind that these other coaches are getting experience calling plays. There's no doubt. And they're having all these contingency plans because it's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen. So I don't think it's really going to affect the 49ers because they have just so many guys that have been there, a lot of continuity between the past years, not really stressed about it too much. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan, there's not another one, but the 49ers will be just fine, even if Shanahan does go down for a couple of weeks. Not too worried about that. And I think Robert Saleh just steps right in. He's on the verge of being hired as a coach anyway. You just allow him to have the entire head coaching duties, and then offense, you just step up to the next guy. David, he asked this, what do you think of the Pro Football Focus ranking of our linebacker crew at 10? Shake my head. Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's number 1. I don't even think it's close. I understand why national media, they don't know who Dre Greenlaw is. They don't understand how great he was last year. And so I get it. But whenever you look at those 3, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Quan Alexander, name a better trio in the NFL. It does not exist at the linebacking core. It doesn't. And again, here's my philosophy on this, okay? Number 1, Fred Warner, I think, is the best linebacker in the NFL. That's what I believe. I really, really do. Number 2, Dre Greenlaw, there's not a better number 2 linebacker in the NFL. I get he's played 1 year. I get it. But you talk about the biggest moments, Super Bowl. Week 17, overtime versus Seahawks earlier. The dude shows up. And now you're talking about Quan Alexander. Is there a better third linebacker in the NFL than Quan freaking Alexander? I just don't see it. I just don't see it. So maybe you want to knock him on experience. But yeah, that's maybe it. From Mike Honcho, who's better, the O-line or the D-line? D-line 100%. The offensive line's great. Tackles are great. I think Laken Tomlinson's great, but the center, right guard is still kind of up in the air. D-line, nothing is up in the air. That is a super, super talented just entire roster, top to bottom. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. I know I sure as heck did. This is fun. I'm excited. Lots of stuff. Guys, I can't plead to you enough. show up Thursday. Hit subscribe. Hit that notification bell. It's going to be 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. The quest for 6 will continue. That's what it's going to be about. Chapter 1. Come join us. Plus, we're giving away a free Nick Bosa jersey. That's going to be for you guys. It's free. Brush up on your Nick Bosa trivia. You don't know where I'm going to go with it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So thank you guys for all the support. Really appreciate everything. And as always, stay strong, faithful.